When Robyn Brown's clandestine letter unexpectedly appears in court, it reveals the appalling truth behind the sister wives' family's sudden collapse much earlier than anyone would have ever expected. Betrayal, guilt, and repressed secrets swirl around Cody Brown as the truth he had evaded for so long becomes a harsh reality. But it is Janelle's response to this dramatic revelation that catches everyone off guard. Order in the court, the authoritative voice of the judge resonated off the walls covered with oak panels, stilling the chatter that filled the room. Reporters, family members, and bystanders hushed, recognizing that this was not a typical case. This was not money, crime, or contracts. This was a family broken apart, a family once sustained by love, faith, and harmony. This was the Browns. Seated at the defendant's table was Cody Brown, the former charming leader of TLC's sister wives, now more obviously aged, gaunt, and burdened by the weight of broken trust over years. Across the room, Janelle remained serene but firm. Her eyes, however, spoke of a different tale, one of repressed fury and sadness. By her side stood her daughter, both reserved and prepared. A couple of rows in front of me, Robyn Brown held a water bottle and tissue, her eyes darting nervously between Kody and the judge, as if steeling herself for the worst. Then the courtroom erupted into shocked silence as Janelle's lawyer stood up. Sliding into a frayed brown folder, he extracted a single folded piece of mail. "Your Honor, we request that this letter be admitted into evidence," he said. The judge arched an eyebrow, adjusting her glasses up the bridge of her nose. "What is the connection between this letter and the case?" The attorney's tone was firm but icy. "It is a letter that Robyn Brown wrote in her own hand, to Cody Brown. This letter was never shared with any of the co-wives, not even with my client, Janelle. What it says is horrendous and, we believe, instrumental in the dissolution of the Brown family." A wave of gasps ran through the courtroom. Robyn stiffened, Cody's face paled, and his jaw clenched involuntarily. Janelle, however, was calm, her doubts at last to be laid to rest. The judge inclined her head. "Proceed." With slow, careful movements, the attorney spread out the yellowed letter, the faded ink its testament to age. The flowing, looping cursive was unarguably Robyn's handwriting. He cleared his throat and began to read, "Dear Kody, I don't know how much longer I can keep up the act. I see the way the others look at me, with suspicion, resentment, even hate. I tried to love them, I swear I did. But I've come to realize I don't belong with them. I belong to you. Perhaps that's the real issue. I'm so tired of trading our peace for their comfort. I'm sick of having to ask for permission to simply be by your side. If I've been the bad guy in their tale, perhaps it's time that I cease to apologize." The courtroom fell into stunned silence. The judge fidgeted uncomfortably. Robyn buried her face in her hands, overwhelmed by the moment. The letter went on, "You've said I'm your safe haven, the one you're most at ease with. So why aren't we fighting for what's obviously broken? If it's them or me, please choose peace. Choose me, even if it means letting everything else go." A cold silence fell over the courtroom. Even the court clerk, who was normally uninterested, watched with incredulity. The lawyer set the letter aside and returned the judge's stare levelly. "Let the record show," he said, "that this letter was written around 18 months before my client formally broke with Mr. Brown. It antedates Garrison's death, antedates the breakup of what was left of their family. And most importantly, it is plain as day that it shows Robyn wanting to keep herself and Mr. Brown away from the rest of the family, come hell or high water." Finally, Kody spoke. The burden of concealed secrets at last compelled him to speak, though his statements were ripped between denial and admission. The judge gave him a disapproving stare. "Brown, you will respond when addressed," she cautioned. But the courtroom had already listened too long. His confession was proof of what they all dreaded. He had knowingly hidden the letter. Robyn shook physically now, her attorney soothing her softly with a touch to the arm. Janelle leaned back, face impassive, but her daughter Madison was anything but in control. Her eyes flashed with anger as she muttered under her breath, "You manipulated us all." The judge rapped the desk sharply, demanding order. Does the plaintiff wish to respond to this letter? Silence fell for a moment before Janelle rose. Without notes, her voice steady and clear, she delivered a verdict long awaited. This letter confirms what I've always suspected, she declared. Kody made a choice. He just never had the courage to say it aloud. Then she turned to Robyn, the tone of her voice becoming harder. You wanted more than love, you wanted to be the last wife standing. Robyn's lip trembled, and tears welled up, but she remained quiet. Janelle's eyes became stern. You could have told us. We were your sisters. You could have been honest. Instead, you wrote clandestine letters and watched us shatter, all the while pursuing what you really wanted. The judge held up a hand to stop the acrimonious instant. That will suffice for the moment, Miss Brown. You will be able to make your full statement in session 3. Janelle sat down, and a somber hush fell on the courtroom. The air was heavy with betrayal, of the type that wounds more than any utterance. It wasn't religion, culture, or camera crews from reality TV that unraveled the Browns. It was favoritism. Secrets. Envelope and drawer-held decisions now pulled into the harsh light of day. Everything would never be the same. Even when the letter was finished being read, the courtroom remained solemnly silent, as if the smoke were still in an enclosed room. No one was sure whether to cry, gasp, or look away. But no one could. Everyone's eyes were on Robyn Brown. She sat shaken and defenseless, cheeks smeared with tears, hands visibly trembling. It was her turn to speak now, and everyone knew her words could clear her name or cast deeper shadows over her. Her attorney stood slowly. Your Honor, Mrs. Robyn Brown would like to give her statement about the letter just entered into evidence. The judge nodded hesitantly, gesturing for her to continue. Robyn stood up in slow, reluctant steps, her hand holding a tissue, the other holding a piece of paper with the letter on it, still acutely powerful, despite all these years. She didn't glance at Janelle or Kody, kept her gaze fixed on the floor instead, as though somehow the earth could liberate her from guilt of her admission. Her lips quivered, but her voice was steady. I wrote that letter 2 years ago. I was overwhelmed, tired, and thoroughly mixed up. I felt rejected by the other wives. I didn't feel like part of the family anymore. Not really. She paused, gulped hard. Last night, Kody had just come back from being with the other families for days. I was crying by myself. It was like I was always in the middle of something I didn't begin but couldn't leave. She looked over at the judge, who regarded her steadily and sympathetically. Go on. Robyn drew a breath. I wrote that letter to manipulate, to destroy, not to survive. I cried all of my secrets onto the page. I never intended anyone else to see it, just Kody. Kody glanced up for a moment, but Robyn did not look at him. She raised the letter and read aloud again, her voice jagged and full of remorse. Kody, I know they'll never love me like you do. Her voice broke, not from offense, but from sheer pain. She wanted to be loved, to be near, to grasp something true. But she knew deep down the window had closed. She turned the page. I never wanted them to hurt, but I also can't let you go. The courtroom seemed to catch its breath together, the gravity of those words suspended heavily in the air. At the other end of the room, Janelle stood motionless, like a statue hewn from granite. No blink, no flicker, yet her silence did yell louder than any words under that tranquil facade. Robyn's hands trembled more fiercely now, but she continued. I meant I didn't want to lose Kody out of my life. But I didn't know how much being near him was destroying everyone else. I didn't see that I had become the representative of everything breaking down. She turned back to the page marked. I can't be the bad guy in their tale anymore. If it's me or them, I hope you have peace, even if it means leaving everything else behind. A gasp pierced the courtroom. This was the moment each wife and child silently relived in their heads, though they never knew words were penned here. This was the turning point where Kody had quietly made his decision, Robyn or the family. Now they had proof. Robyn let the letter down slowly. I know it sounds like an ultimatum, like manipulation. But I promise it was never intended that way. I was shattered in pain. I thought if Kody remained fractured, I'd be ruined. I thought I was saving him. The courtroom hung still, as if the air itself had been stopped. Across the aisle, Kody leaned forward, lowering his head. Shame? Guilt? No one dared to say. Robyn turned to Janelle for the first time. She relaxed. I never wanted to take someone's place. I never asked to be his favorite. I imagined love could be shared in a plural family. But now I see that Kody gave me more time, more attention, more loyalty. And before it even registered, it was too late. Janelle remained silent, simply blinked once, and that one blink spoke volumes. I already knew. Robyn took a deep breath. To the children, particularly Janelle's children, I know I was someone you could no longer trust. You blamed me, and maybe I do deserve it. Maybe I deserve it all. But please hear me, I wasn't trying to win. I was merely trying not to lose everything. The judge broke in softly, Mrs. Brown, please continue. Robyn nodded. I'm sorry the letter caused you so much hurt. I'm sorry that I remained silent for so long. I'm sorry that I let silence speak rather than interrupting Kody when I realized how far he had wandered away from all of you. She took her seat. No clapping. No shouting. Only a heavy silence, the kind you get from a stone into the bottom of a deep, dark lake when you expect a splash that never materializes. The judge looked at Janelle. Does the plaintiff wish to reply now or in the next session? Her lawyer leaned in to whisper in her ear. Janelle nodded. Next session, Your Honor. The judge gave a slight nod. Court is adjourned for recess. We'll resume in 1 hour with session 3. The gavel struck. Chairs scraped. Papers rustled. People stood, but Robyn stayed seated, eyes fixed on the letter as if it might bleed. Kody rose, but didn't move, unable to meet either woman's gaze. Janelle rose and departed, head high, her daughters trailing behind her silently. They didn't need to hear it, the truth was already within them. Robyn's tormented words couldn't destroy the intent of them. The letter was words on paper, but its power was etched deep in sorrow. Before the judge could even order the room back to order, Janelle stood up again. She did not wait for her lawyer for permission. Her heels clicked sharply as she moved towards them. Her expression was unreadable. Her stance stiff. But her eyes, those burned with something rough and uncooked, anger, sorrow, strength, and years of lies finally breaking through. Her words, when she did speak at last, were hardly more than a whisper, and that just made them more effective. Her voice lowered to a whisper, soft, but the more terrifying for it. I asked you for the truth, Kody. The whole courtroom leaned in, hanging on her words. I pleaded with you to give me a genuine explanation why you walked out on us. Not excuses. Not religion. Not hectic work schedules. The truth. We all deserved that. Kody blinked, but remained silent. He didn't even look at her. Janelle clutched the now legendary letter in her hand, holding it like a knife made of shattered hearts. This is why. She shook the paper, ensuring that everyone could see it. These words were the truth I requested. And you put it in a drawer. You took silence over truth. Toss loyalty to one woman over your entire family. A deafening silence surrounded the courtroom. Even the cameras outside seemed to swallow the gravity of her words. Then Janelle spun around and locked eyes with Robyn. You didn't wreck the family, Robyn. Kody did. A shocked gasp came from the gallery. But your silence, your smiling silently, your refusal to intervene when you realized what was going on, that's how you facilitated it. Whether intentionally or not, you allowed everything to come apart. Robyn put her hand over her mouth, shaking and sobbing hysterically. But Janelle did not blink. Do you have any idea what it's like to see your kids cry on Christmas because their father doesn't call? Do you have any idea how many birthdays I had to lie and say was too busy to see them rather than tell them the truth, that he had moved on, that we no longer mattered in his world? Her voice first cracked, but only slightly. I stood up for your name for years, Kody. Because I hoped, perhaps, just perhaps, the man who cradled our babies was still in there somewhere inside you. She breathed deeply, wearily, the kind that only comes after decades of living. But now I get it. She glanced back at the letter, reading a haunting line aloud. If it's me or them, I hope you'll choose peace, even if it means letting go of everything else. She gazed up at Kody with hot intensity. And you did. Kody closed his eyes, not speaking and still, like a man locked in a prison of his own. Janelle went on. I might have been able to handle the truth. What I couldn't handle was your cowardice. You didn't end this family like a man. You let it die, painfully, slowly, one forgotten call at a time. She wept openly, shameless and raw. Do you remember Garrison's final message to you? Do you even know what it was? Kody's lips parted slightly, but nothing emerged. Janelle produced a laminated screenshot of a phone as proof and read into the record. Dad, we miss you, but you only show up when it's convenient. I won't beg anymore. I just want peace for Mom and the rest of us. The courtroom turned cold as ice. Everybody there felt sadness spreading through them. Even the judge appeared to be emotional, swallowing hard as she looked down at her notes. After a pause of several moments, Janelle addressed the bench. Your Honor, I'm not here to squabble over money. I'm not here to destroy a reputation. I'm here because my children were abandoned. Their truth was hidden while their father played house with his favorite wife and lied to the world and said we were just angry and unstable. She gestured to the rear of the courtroom where two of her adult sons sat in silence, one's face streaming tears. These boys grew up with the sense that they weren't enough, that perhaps they were wrong because their dad elected absence and their mother didn't say a word about him. Glancing again at Kody, her tone fell lower still, laced with finish and hurt. Her words became dense, each syllable laden with finality. You don't get to rewrite history anymore. You don't get to say we left you. We left ourselves. She glared at Robyn. And Robyn, I hope one day you understand what that silence cost. Not just me, not just our children, but you too. Robyn sat in stunned silence now, tears seeping into her lawyer's shirt. Kody sat silent, head bowed, speechless. Janelle retreated, nodded to the judge, and sat down. The atmosphere in the court still hung heavy, but it had changed, no longer explosive, yet somber, nearly funereal. The truth had been spoken, not yelled or hurled as a missile, but spoken with a depth that only decades of suffering and silence can create. The judge cleared her throat gently. Thank you, Miss Brown. We will move on to the next testimony. With a short break, the gavel came down softly. For the first time during this ordeal, a small smile crept over Janelle's face, not in victory, but in having finally told her entire truth. Silence lingered longer than any yet. No coughing, no pages rustling, only the heavy delay between what was said and what remained to be said. Then, slowly, Cody Brown stood. For the first time, he was shaken, not angry or defensive, but completely drained. He walked alone, no notes, no apologies, like a man ready to confront what he had been avoiding. Then he began to speak. I failed. The words hit like a rock in the quiet courtroom. He looked at the judge, then at Janelle, then hesitated before turning to Robyn. I failed as a husband, as a father, as a man. A soft gasp escaped the gallery. Even Robyn, still softly crying, looked up. But Kody wasn't seeking pity, he was shattering into pieces before their eyes. When we began this family, I thought of something greater. I thought we could do things differently. I thought in the dream of plural marriage founded on love, faith, and sacrifice. He faltered, seeking the proper words. But at some point along the way, I lost sight of what we were a family for. I began seeing conflict rather than communication. I started seeking peace, not in the family, but away from it. He faced the judge. I was tired. Every home had fire. A wife who needed something I no longer knew how. I started to withdraw from it all. His voice broke as he uttered Robyn's name. Robyn gave me peace. I held onto it like a lifeline. There it was, the truth, uncensored. He looked at Janelle, eyes bloodshot. I never intended to leave you or the children behind. I just lost my way. Rather than fight harder, I ran. I believed if I said nothing, the issues would go away. That the yelling would cease. That someone else would make it all right. He breathed slowly and took a step back. I put that letter in a drawer for almost 2 years. I read it once and knew if anyone else had seen it, it would all be over. That letter told all the things I was too scared to say. Going to Robyn, he went on, you didn't make me do anything. But you were the only one I didn't feel judged by. Around you, I was enough. I'm sorry that made you a target. I understand now it made the rest of them feel abandoned, because they were. He massaged his face, crumpling under the burden of it all. His voice cracked, vulnerable. I decided I was opting for peace. But I was actually fleeing. Fleeing from difficult talk, from my own duty, from the reality that ID pushed our family too far. And it cost me everything in the end. Janelle remained still, her expression unreadable, but tears accumulating in her eyes. Kody glanced down, then up again. Garrison's death. He began to speak, then lost his nerve and trailed off. He swallowed with a visible effort. Garrison's death broke something in me. Something that I've never been able to fix. I wasn't there when he was screaming for help. He reached for me, and I didn't reach back. I can't make that right. I'll never forgive myself for it. Tears began to fall as he glanced once more at Janelle. You were right. He gave up, and I encouraged him to lose hope. Not by what I said, but by everything I didn't say. The courtroom was utterly still. The judge leaned forward a little, her hands steepled in front of her, taking in the gravity of his admission. Kody swung around to the center. I quit attending Christmas because I could not stand the disappointment. I quit phoning because I was sick of feeling like I was losing. But now I see. What I really lost was your trust, your respect, your love. He gestured vaguely to the empty space beside him. I thought I could love you all equally, that I could stretch my heart across 4 homes. But somewhere along the way, I gave more and more to Robyn, not because she demanded it, but because I allowed it. Robyn covered her mouth again, shuddering. And the worst thing, Kody's voice broke again, I knew. I knew all of you sensed it. I saw it. And still, I didn't stop. Finally, he looked into the judge's eyes. I don't deserve to be forgiven. I know my children may never want to speak to me again. I know that. But I want to be truthful no matter how late, because keeping the truth concealed didn't safeguard anyone. It ravaged everything. He bowed his head, and for a very long, deep moment, there was no sound. No lawyers stood up. No gavels rapped. Even the court reporters ceased typing. It was no longer testimony. It was a man bleeding truth into a room that had waited for years to hear it. At last, the judge interrupted with a soft voice. Brown, do you have anything else to say? Kody looked up, eyes red and voice almost inaudible. This, only this. If you are building a family and it feels like you're always choosing who to disappoint, stop. Tell the truth before it eats you alive from within. I did not. And this. This is the cost. He fell into the chair, utterly broken. The courtroom was quiet. But this time, the quietness wasn't only shock, it was recognition. Sometimes the bad guy isn't the one with the biggest mouth. Sometimes he's the quiet guy, the guy who disappears when the hardest words must be said. And now, finally, Cody Brown had said them, too late for healing, but maybe just in time for truth. The courtroom was silent again, but this time it was different. It was the silence of something coming to a close. 5 agonizing sessions of tears, blame, admission, and silence lay behind them when the gavel fell for a final time, and everyone knew what it signified. The final brick in a family, worn down gradually over years, was crumbling. The judge's voice was firm but not hard as she started reading out the judgment. In the matter of property and community property, the court determined sufficient evidence that all residual assets, financial, real estate, and otherwise, will be divided equally among the wives, Janelle Brown, Christine Brown, Mary Brown, and Robyn Brown. The women all supplied years of unpaid labor, emotional labor, and caretaking to the household. The court acknowledges their equal right to spousal contributions. No one answered. No nods, no acknowledgments. It was equitable, but equitable did not equal fair. The judge went on, as to minor dependents, Mrs. Robyn Brown will have sole legal and physical custody of her children, and Mr. Brown. Visitation with Mr. Brown will be supervised and is subject to completion of emotional therapy, parental counseling, and future court evaluations. Robyn blinked rapidly and a tear ran down her face. Cody's expression did not change. He had anticipated this. Next was the most painful ruling. In regard to adult children shared by Mr. Brown and Ms. Janelle Brown, the court allows complete independence for the children. Any visitation, communication, or contact with Mr. Brown shall be completely up to them. Brown is specifically enjoined from trying any contact without express written authorization. That was all. Janelle did not flinch. But the pain's weight behind her eyes was unmistakable. Tension in Janelle's throat was unmissable, her shoulders clenching with waves of emotion suppressed. Kody lowered his head, words exhausted. The judge rapped her gavel once, definitive and stark. Court is adjourned. The courtroom erupted into life, but it was more that a courtroom emptied than that mourners departed a funeral. On the street outside, reporters surged, shouting questions as the doors burst open. Robyn, what are your thoughts on the decision? Janelle, do you hold Kody responsible for your son's death? Mr. Brown, will you contest custody? But they were written across their faces. Robyn was the first to depart, accompanied by her attorney and a court officer. She didn't break for the cameras, head down low, stride hurried. Her puffy, red eyes spoke volumes beyond words, a woman with nothing left to say. For years, she had been known as the favorite, the home wrecker, the one Kody never left. Now, the only wife left standing, she appeared more isolated than ever. A reporter shouted out, "Robyn, do you feel guilty?" She flinched, but continued on her way. Her SUV idled curbside. She got in silently, not a word, not a comment, just quiet tears. Then Janelle appeared. She strode slowly, defiantly, head held high. Her adult children walked beside her like silent sentinels of survival. The press followed her, but she stopped long enough to respond to a single question. A quiet question was asked by a female reporter, Miss Brown. What's your message to your family today following today's ruling? Janelle faced the cameras not with rage or a fake smile, but with unvarnished reality. He didn't break us. He only revealed to us who he actually was. She then turned and walked away, intact and unbroken. Betrayed, abandoned, publicly humiliated, and wounded horribly, but finally free. Kody didn't join them. He sat long after the courtroom had cleared. The letter crumpled in his hands, his fingers still clasped tightly around it from his witness stand appearance. He gazed at it like it was going to suddenly tell him a different truth, but it did not move. Its words rang in his mind, "If it's me or them, I hope you'll choose peace." And he had chosen peace, but at a cost that no man could afford. Finally, the bailiff came to the door. "Brown, the courtroom is closed." Kody blinked, nodded slowly, and stood. He walked out the same doorway had walked in all those years ago, a husband of 4 wives, father of numerous children, the face of a family that had appeared unwavering. Now, however, no family trailed him onto the sidewalk. Fewer and fewer photographers were left, taking in the photo of a man who had lost all without even knowing it was gone. He slowly made his way down the marble steps, each step weighed down with loss. Outside, there was life. Reporters scattered. Witnesses disappeared. The courthouse cleared out. He stood at the bottom of the steps, holding the letter, formerly confidential, now public record. All of what he had kept secret was exposed. Legacy and destruction. Kody had established his legacy on values, plural marriage, religious cohesiveness, faith in a large family. That legacy was now nothing more than a signed piece of paper in a courthouse. He was no longer the patriarch of a family. A name on custody papers, a ghost in supervised visitation. Worst of all, he was no longer a father, not to the children he used to tuck in at night. They now bore memories of distance and disappointment. The wives he referred to as soulmates moved away in different directions. And the world he had worked so hard to control, deny, and escape had broken apart, and he was left to clean up the pieces. He sat on the courthouse steps, cold, without knowing how long he sat there. The letter remained in his hand, not read once more. Reading it once more would be to have undone all. Some things don't come apart. Some doors that are closed stay that way forever. The last thought hung in the vacant courtroom chairs, stagnant, heavy air. Cody Brown, who was once surrounded by wives, children, and cameras, was now simply a man. Alone. Letter in hand. Past behind him. And no one waiting.